Assalamu alaikum. Hello, marhaba. Welcome once again, guys, to my world of Insta conversations. How is everyone? I am set once again. I am back once again with another guest, with another story, with another discussion, another way to spread awareness. Today, I have somebody who's coming in who is a Muslim coach. She is going to come in and educate us. So, without any further delay, let's bring her in, guys. No.
Hey, assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
I'm fine. So before we dive in into our conversation, let's
Mhm.
have a little bit of introduction about yourself.
Okay, my name is Soraya Subani Chauhan. I'm a singles coach for Muslim women over 30. So I help ladies who are 30 plus, who are struggling to get married, who are feeling kind of down or feeling frustrated. I help them overcome those challenges so that they have better results in their search. I've been doing this for 4 years and it was inspired by my own marriage. I started looking for a spouse when I was 19. I was still at university. My parents started looking for me. I didn't actually get married till I was 35. I spent so much time looking and getting it wrong. I met hundreds and hundreds of guys, and there was just no support, you know. And eventually, I worked with a coach. And once I started working with her, it was amazing. It was really transformative. And it was the weirdest thing. I met my husband in May and we were married by December. I was like, I can't believe it was that easy. So after that, I then trained as a coach myself, and then I created Single Muslimah Solutions because I just felt there was something that was needed for Muslim women.
Wow, that is so inspirational. So when you said that there was no support, what do you mean by that?
I think, like, you know, when ladies are in their 20s, their early 20s, they're kind of like prime beef. I know it's a horrible phrase to use.
Yeah.
Everybody wants them, everyone wants to help them get married. The older you get, when you haven't got married, people then start blaming you. You're too picky, you're too fussy. They also stop helping you as well, and they stop bringing proposals or good proposals your way. And when you get after 30, it's like you don't know who to turn to because you feel like people who haven't been in your situation, they're going to judge you. They're saying, you know, you're too picky, you're too fussy, you should have married or whatever. And, you know, when you go online, you find like dating things, but they're not relevant for us as Muslims. And if
Mhm.
you go to Islamic guides, I know they mean well, but they're kind of, they don't realize some of the challenges modern women are facing, modern Muslim women. So I really felt that there was nowhere I could go for help when I was in that position. So, and I think a lot of women just kind of feel a bit almost ashamed. They feel shamed into just not talking to anyone about their experiences.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. Do you think this is something like a cultural thing where the Muslims face this kind of struggle more than others?
I think culturally, yeah, because like, you know, pretty much all the cultures, you know, I work with women across the world, and there's this thing. I think even in Western culture, like over 30 is kind of a limit. You've got to freak out when you're single and 30, and you know, but it gets worse. I think with certain cultures, especially in the Muslim community, it actually gets quite cruel as well. You have families, you know, some of them can be quite cruel when their daughter isn't married by a certain age, and the pressure you feel is immense. And a lot of women end up marrying the wrong person just for the sake of pleasing everybody. So there's a lot of pressure.
That makes me laugh because that I can resonate with it so much. I'm from Pakistan,
Mm,
and for me, I got late married. So when did I get married? I got married when I was 26, and that
mm,
was so late. And that was one of the funny things is that I went through, like, well, you went through more proposals than I went through, but I went through so many proposals that in the end I was burned out.
mm,
And the pressure was so much that, oh, you're, like you said, so picky. And I wasn't picky. The thing was, they would come, they would like, and the middle person would call and say, oh, they love your daughter, and tomorrow they're going to come with the engagement ring and blah blah blah. That tomorrow never came. So you build up
mm,
that hype, you build up that expectation, and then
mm,
there's nobody. And I think, let's say if I saw 20 proposals, I think maybe I rejected three out of all those, and the rest were all rejections. So
Yeah.
everybody is like, oh, but you rejected that guy. I rejected that guy because I knew that I won't have gotten along with that guy, and I had to face more rejections. So I can understand the pressure, and like you said, I think one of the main reasons why I rushed in the first proposal that seemed that it was getting along was because of there was so much in my subconscious mind, there was so much of pressure that, oh, I'm
Yeah.
getting 26, I have to get married, and then I have to have kids, and this and that. So I think a lot of societal pressures and not having, although I know that the mindset and a lot of changed even in Pakistan, but that we still have that group of people who definitely think that, oh, the minute the girl turns 20, the prime time she needs to get married. This it's
Yeah.
just like, like a rose. If you don't buy the rose, it's gonna
Yeah. Nobody
kind
will
of
want
that.
it.
Right, right, right. So I saw on your page that you do the halal dating. Let's
Mm.
talk a little about that. Let's broaden that conversation.
Okay. I think I know a lot of people, they either love or hate the phrase. Um, and I think we have to be really clear what it means. Like when I talk about dating, and I think a lot of coaches similar to me and other people out there, when they talk about halal dating, it's not dating as we know in the Western sense. But what it is, increasingly these days, men and women are meeting independently to see if they're compatible for marriage. And, they meet publicly, they meet after work, their conversations are very halal, but it's just kind of, there's no direction for what to do, because you're asking the kinds of questions you would ask in a traditional marriage meeting, but in a very modern dating sort of setting. So when I
Hmm.
talk about halal dating, I kind of work with a three meeting method, so that by the end of your third meeting with a guy, you will have an idea of whether he's right for me, whether this is going somewhere, and how to have some of those conversations that are a bit difficult. Um, because sometimes, if you Google advice on dating, you will find loads of videos and books about kind of really silly, like I must say, I feel really silly things like how to get a guy to chase you, how to make him,
Oh my
really
gosh,
silly things.
yes. Yes.
And
How
what you want
silly
is
is
a,
that?
it's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. And, we're not
Mm-hmm.
manipulating people. You want a halal marriage. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got to have the right conversations in the right way.
Mm-hmm.
But because kind of you're going alone, you just need a bit of support and a bit of prompting. Because what happens is, like, I'm sorry to say, and there's a lot of amazing men who I'm sure are watching this as well. You don't do this, but there are a lot of guys who are happy to keep a girl going and going and going, and then just turn around and say, oh, I'm not interested in marriage, I'm not ready for marriage. So what I do is just help women have a little bit more control and ownership over their marriage experience.
Wow, wow. Where were you when I was getting married? Now my question is that.
I was still single myself, probably.
Uh, okay. So tell me, what kind of challenges have you been facing when women approach, especially women, when they approach you regarding the halal dating?
You mean the challenges they're having, or the challenges
Yeah,
I face?
they're having, yes.
Yeah, so what it is, I mean, the most common ones, the one I think I went through as well all the time, is one of the common challenges is you meet a guy maybe once or twice, you phone, and then things just fizzle out. Nothing happens. Like you will go on an endless stream of first dates and nothing happens. Or the other end of the scale, things will be going well, and then the guy will just ghost. It's like he just stops texting, and it's like, well, I thought everything was going well. Or he'll actually keep you going for a while, make you think that he talks about marriage, he talks the talk, but he doesn't actually take the steps, meeting the parents, whatever. So these are some of the challenges that a lot of ladies are facing. And, it's really unfair because they're putting their whole heart and soul into it. They're doing everything the right way, and they're just getting faced with rejection, people ignoring them, ghosting. And so, yeah, those are some of the key challenges. And I think obviously the older you get as well, there's a lot of very judgmental guys, kind of, you're too old, you're this, you're that. So that's another issue as well.
Right, right, right. Do you think that the issue is that when a guy and girl approach each other, uh, the guy is looking for a more relaxed kind of relationship, while because the girl is looking for a commitment, and that's where the problem.
A lot of the
calms them.
time, yeah,
Mm,
because I think men have more leeway, let's face it. They can get married
mm,
much later. So
mm,
they're not so much, I mean, and men do feel the pressure, but maybe
mm,
less than women because we have an age thing that, and we've got, we face most of the criticism.
mm,
And I mean, there are so many genuine guys out there who are ready to get married, but a lot of them are more laid back. And let's face it, they have more options, right? A
mm,
guy in his 30s or 40s still has a lot of options, whereas a woman in her 30s, she's rejected all over the place for really silly reasons. So I think
mm,
guys are complacent because they kind of feel like, well, I got time, I got options. And maybe that's
mm,
why they don't take it so seriously.
mm.
Mm.
That's interesting. Guys, I'm sorry. I was so much into the conversation that I forgot what you were sending in. So if you have any questions, please send them again and she will answer them. She's already reading them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm. I was having a look at some of the
Biological clock
comments.
is a threat. Yes, most definitely. That is
I
one of
think
the
I
biggest
think it's
challenges.
used. I think the whole biological clock thing is definitely, I think it's used as a kind of weapon against women as well. I mean, you have women having babies in their 40s,
Yeah.
women in their 20s who can't have children. I think we have to remember that children are a bonus and a blessing, not a guarantee.
Mm,
And I think a lot of people lose sight of that actually, yeah, kids are a bonus, they're not a guarantee. And
mm.
but a lot of men, especially when they look at a lady a certain age, it's like they're choosing a farm animal for breeding, and they're like, she's not,
That makes sense.
not good stock. So
Good,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
And it's
it's
really,
a
it's
real
really, it's
shame.
really funny because I was talking to my dad the other day, and I was saying, I don't know, somebody, I don't know, mid 40s just had a kid. So he was telling my mom, and my mom, she went out, and I was like, why is it such a big deal? Well, they were not making it a big deal, but I was just asking and saying, why is it a big deal when a woman has a kid in her 40s or her late 40s or whatever that
Hmm.
age gap they were talking about? And it's like, oh, she's having it in her late age. And so my dad was like, exactly, I don't understand what happened, because he says back in his days, like his mom or his grandparents, that was that generation where there are 10 and 11 kids. So he's
Mm,
saying that there was no problem. He says, I don't even remember age being an issue or being discussed, that, oh, you've reached 40 or 50, you shouldn't have kids. So
mm,
he said that I don't understand where this thing and when it started, and
yeah.
why it's become such a big problem that women are looked down upon, even if they're having kids in their 40s or late 40s or what, 45,
Mm.
47, whatever age, if they can, and if their bodies are healthy, and if the couple is happy to do that, then why is society frowning about it?
I mean, if you think, our Prophet ﷺ, his wife was in her 40s when she had her children with him.
Mm, mm,
It's possible. There are so many examples in Islamic history. And yeah, I
mm,
don't know why it's become such a social taboo. Maybe it's this kind of almost resentment that, oh, women have too much choice these days. I don't know. It's
mm.
really strange. It's a really strange concept that, I think the whole biological clock thing is very strange. I know, I mean, I'm no scientist. I know there's some evidence to suggest it's harder, but that shouldn't be the only guiding factor when people are choosing a
Hmm.
spouse, right?
Right, most definitely. And
Mm.
I know that in Pakistan culture, it's so worse, not just with that, generally. uh, we think that this is like, because you spoke about religion, it's that people impose it, that it's in religion, but it's just more cultural. I think
Ah,
a lot of the
yeah.
things, I think 90% of the things that I was brought up
Mm.
being taught that they were in your religion, I realized that, ooh, ding dong, that was not religion, that was just culture. And it's a
Yeah.
shocker, because you've grown really conditioned in believing those being your
Mm.
pioneers in religion, and then you get that awakening, like, oh my gosh. And now I'm like really questioning, when somebody tells me something, any person in Pakistan, if he's, and I'm sorry to say that, but if he's a scholar and he's coming
Mm.
on TV and stating something, I'm like, I'm not even listening to this dude, because I don't know where his studies is from. So
Yeah.
nah. I mean, Tariq Jamil Sahib was the only guy I really did listen to, but other than that, I never do, because I'm so scared, because they just use a religion as a tool to control you. So it's just,
Absolutely.
so it's really sad to see that. Um, before you came online, I was just going through your page and I read something that said something like seven creepy men out there. Some
Online.
online
Online.
date. I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on that for the audience because that seems something really interesting.
I can't remember the exact seven from my blog, but I mean, I think if it's okay for me to say it, one of the biggest problems online is that guys, and I'm sorry if there are any men who, I know you don't do this, but a lot of men online, they're very inappropriate and they talk about things that are inappropriate. So I call them the sex seekers. There are a lot of married men online. There are a lot of people who are kind of marrying for ulterior motives. There are a lot of guys online I found who don't like women very much either. They've got quite a negative view of women as well. I certainly met a few as well. I mean, I can't remember all the ones that I mentioned, but I think out of all the dangerous men online, the most dangerous one, I feel, honestly, I call him the sex seeker because, like, honestly, I won't repeat it on here, but some of the things they ask, some of the things they say, it's horrible. Like, I can't believe you just asked me that. And they make you feel like kind of worthless. Like, what made you think it was okay to say that to me? So I think out of all the guys online, I think the sex seeker is definitely the most dangerous one. Definitely.
Wow. Wow. Interesting, interesting. Do you think that, I know we spoke about it before as well, but I wanted you to elaborate on that a bit more, do you think that Muslim women have more issues or more struggle when it comes to getting married after a certain age? Or do you think it's like a global thing?
I think it's definitely a global thing. Like, I must
Okay,
admit, I do like to watch chick flicks and read a lot of kind of trashy chick
okay.
novels. And it's always about a lady who is hitting 30, who has hit 30 and is suddenly very aware that she's single. I actually feel like the number 30 has become such a global kind of thing, a benchmark for kind of being single, that if you kind of hit 30 and you're single, that's it. And I think it's global, but I actually think in some ways Muslim women have it a little bit easier. So me and my school friend, we were both in the same position for a long time. She is like English. Um, and, I was explaining that, I mean, I met my husband and in 7 months we were married. And I know a lot of non-Muslim people do that. Whereas for her, she was saying, well, if I meet somebody, we have to go out and then we have to live together. Then we have to see if we're compatible. And then we have to, and I kind of feel like in some ways, perhaps Muslim women are a little bit more, have more of an advantage, that marriage is our right. Whereas I think in the Western world, they tend to feel really scared to mention marriage because, oh, I'm going to seem needy or whatever. So I think it's quite global, but I feel like Muslim women have a little bit more of an advantage because we do have the right to ask for marriage very early, I think.
So I guess it's just different challenges for both sides.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, and somebody said something famous too.
I saw somebody mention something about online scammers. Absolutely.
Yes, yes,
Asking
that
for
sounds like.
money, asking for,
Oh my
oh, I've had
gosh.
them all, I'm going to prison, I need money. My mom
Oh
is
my
sick, I need
goodness.
money.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, this, I need money to study. I'm just like, gosh, yeah,
And
there's a
women
lot of
actually
that.
buy that. That the women actually believe that.
There are some because I think as women, we're kind of conditioned to care and to fix and to solve problems for people. So, any woman that does, it's because she's acting from her sort of nature where she wants to care and look after somebody. And, it happens. I mean, you hear about women being cheated out of large sums of money as well. It's quite frightening.
Wow. Wow. Do you think that Muslim women struggle more as far as emotional online dating is concerned, is because of Muslim women don't have that kind of interaction that much with men, so they don't know what to expect, so they fall for it really fast as well?
I think so because, for most of us, we were growing up saying, don't talk to boys, unless they're your cousins or I mean, I went to a girls' school. That's how much my parents didn't want me to interact with boys.
Okay.
So yeah, you do grow up not really, unless you got brothers, but brothers are different. And when you find yourself interacting with a guy who's not your brother, not your cousin or uncle or colleague, sometimes it can be like, well, how do I react? How do I respond to things? And I think sometimes what we tend to do is take on our work persona when we come to the marriage, the marriage arena, because that's the thing we know best. So, for example, if you're quite confident in the boardroom, you might come across as a bit maybe pushy when you meet people. But I think, yeah, no, definitely. Nobody ever taught us how to do this. They said, just go out there. Have you met somebody? No, because I don't know how. Nobody taught me.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense because, like you said, being in Pakistan, I went to all girls school. My only
Mm,
interaction was my brother and then my cousins. And me being the youngest in the family, I was also always considered a baby. So all my
mm,
cousins just thought of me as a baby. So I was loved in that way, like she's a little sister. So I didn't
mm.
know much, and then you get married, and then you're like, okay, what? I didn't know anything, like what to
Mm.
expect and what do men want, even intimacy wise, and even generally what how you're supposed to talk, what topics you were supposed to talk. So
Yeah.
all that was like, you're like, oh gosh, because the courtship period is really different. It's just, it's just different. Nothing
Mm.
serious is happening, and that you don't having. I yet to come across somebody saying no, we had like really serious conversations in our
Yeah, yeah.
court period. So you get married, and then you're like, oh, you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, am I supposed to have a baby right away? Okay, how is this gonna happen? And then what are you supposed to expect and stuff? And me being 26, uh, and having the maturity, yet I struggled so much, and it took me so long to really start understanding, because then I moved to USA, and then being in USA, the culture, I had to interact with men, and then I was working there, and then I was interacting with men all the time. So I really started to understand, because I'll tell you, this is really funny and stupid. When I moved to USA,
Mm.
and I started working, and men would come and they'll say, hello, how are you? So that's the basic ethic. So they're smiling and this thing. And the minute they would walk out, so I had another Pakistani lady working with me. I say, look, he's flirting. And then I'll say that another time. Then I'll say another. And then one of my colleagues, she was American, and she's like, they're not flirting with you, you know that? I'm like, yeah, because they're smiling and they're looking at me, and they're like, that's not flirting with you. That's this. They're just being. That's decency.
Yeah.
That's the way they're supposed to. And it's like, oh, so
Yeah.
I know this sounds like she crazy saying, but this is the
No, it's
reality
true.
because we're not
We're
exposed.
not used to it.
We're not used to it, so we don't know when somebody's being nice. Is it
Mm.
supposed to be they being nice, or they're flirting? So I think
Yeah.
that's why we get scammed
I think
more.
definitely. I think, I find it works for the other men. And actually, brother Sharafat Mohammed, I'm going to just come back to something you said in a minute. But I think, a lot of it's the same for some of the men out there as well. When they suddenly find a woman is being polite and is smiling and is being pleasant, they mistake it for like she's flirting with me. And then the next thing you know, they're making inappropriate suggestions because they're just not used to the idea of a woman being friendly and polite because that's her
Mm,
nature. They think there must be an ulterior motive. Just to come
mm,
to what brother, Shafarat Muhammad said, I mentioned about fertility and,
yeah,
leaving
yeah.
it too late. First of all, I'm going to challenge your phrase of too late because there's nowhere that says there's an age that you have to be married by. And secondly, in terms of fertility, it takes two people to make a baby. So, maybe the woman's fine and it's the guy who's shooting blanks. So I think when it comes
Mm,
to children and fertility, we should not take anything for granted,
mm,
and not assume things. And, remember, it's a blessing and a bonus from Allah who has children and who doesn't.
mm. That
Yeah.
makes sense. And I've seen tons of examples, women having, like I said, she's 47. She's had a normal, healthy pregnancy and a normal,
Yeah.
healthy baby,
Mm-hmm.
and no issues. And that's just not one case. I have tons of cases recently where women are having no complications, no issues. Even the doctors are telling them, you have two healthy babies, go for it, and everything seems fine. There's this certain criteria in USA where they do some tests and they say, okay,
Yeah.
you're fine, you can have a
Mm,
kid. And like you said, I think
definitely.
it's if Allah wants to bless you with a kid, He's gonna bless you, whether it's 47, whether it's 27.
And
So
and when it comes to children, there's so much blessing in adopting. There's so much blessing in fostering. There's no one way
mm,
to have children. And we need to kind of stop thinking that, two people's DNA coming together is the be all and end all of marriage.
mm,
It's about you giving care to a child, whether it's one you've made or one you've adopted, one who really
mm,
needs you. And I think we need to just remember that we shouldn't take it for granted. It's a blessing. And, you know, it takes a guy and a woman to make children, and both of you can have issues. So that's definitely, you know, my argument for when people start talking about age and everything.
Right, right, right. So when women approach you around their 30s, because you deal with them at that age, do you come across women like myself who are still that naive and who are still struggling to identify whether a guy is serious or is flirting, or they can really understand by that age?
I think by that age, the women I work with are pretty clued up, you
Okay.
know, and they can tell. But the thing they do struggle with is knowing a guy's intentions and
Mm,
kind of feeling a bit worried about his actions and his words. Should, in fact, you know, it's kind of being almost overcautious. That's the biggest problem, you know, and it's so easy to look for a reason to say no to a guy when you've been hurt that much and disappointed that much. So I
mm,
think, you know, I think the women, they're quite good at distinguishing when they, by the time they get to their 30s, but it's a different challenge. The challenge is actually, is he serious? Is he messing me around? Should I be worried by this thing he said or thing that he did? There's a lot of, because you don't want to get it wrong. You've waited so long. You really don't want to get it wrong. And, you know, it becomes, the pressure to make the right decision becomes immense then, I think.
mm. Right, right. So much of pressure. Oh my God, just listening to it is giving me stress. uh, for all of those who are still looking for men or women to marry, good luck to you guys. I hope
Yeah.
that you find good life partners. And one of the things I really wanted to say was that don't rush it. Please don't rush it.
Mm.
The right person is not going to leave you. He or she
Mm-hmm.
is not going to go anywhere. If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. So
Absolutely.
don't get scared if you're 30 or 35 or whatever. If it's meant to be, it's gonna happen, and just go with
Exactly.
the flow. Just try to relax, be yourself. I
And I
know it's
think
hard and it's easier said than done, but really, we both are here talking from experience.
absolutely. I mean,
So so
when I look at somebody, some of the people I thought I was going to marry, compared to who I did marry, I'm so relieved that I waited.
mm,
Like this person was made for me. I can't imagine being married to having married anybody else before him. And although at the time, before I met him, I was like, God, this is never going to end. Maybe I'm not destined to get married. I had all of these thoughts. But when I met him,
mm.
I thought, no, this is the reason I've been waiting. This is for this person. And Alhamdulillah, it's been an amazing journey.
So talk a little about him since you just spoken about it. How did that happen? How did
Um,
that happen for you?
we met online, which is funny because I'd been online for 10 years. But here's the
Okay.
problem. I think we use the online space the wrong way. And, you know, I mean, that's kind of a whole other topic, but we do use
Mm,
the online space the wrong way. When I had kind of got my head around what I was looking for, what was important to me, I was then able to use the online space the right way to look for what matters to me. And I remember I actually had scrolled past his profile so many times, but because back then he wasn't ticking all kinds of ridiculous criteria, I didn't go for it. And actually,
mm,
you know, when you look with your heart rather than your eyes, you see the right person. So I did like,
mm,
honestly, the most basic search. I said, I want someone who lives close to me because I was so fed up of traveling everywhere, like out in London to meet people. And somebody, I just chose his age, whatever. And he came up, and yeah, I didn't look at all the silly data. I looked at what he said. And one of the things I really loved about him was that he said he works with disabled children, and he really enjoys his job. And to me, that just shows a guy who's so caring and
mm.
so patient and so supportive. And for that reason, I decided to contact him. And that's exactly what he is. He's one of the kindest men I've ever met, nicest people I've ever met. And he really cares about other people. So we met for coffee, and that went really well. Honestly, it's like I'd known him for my whole life. And then we didn't meet again for 2 weeks because he thought I didn't like him. So I had to kind of let him know that I was interested. So we met again. And by July, we were engaged. All our family knew. And it just went from there. Everything was just right, just as it should be. And, you know, previously I probably wouldn't have gone for him because I was looking the wrong way with this sort of really ridiculous checklist of silly things I was looking for. And when I just looked with my heart, it was like, yeah, that's the right guy.
Wow, wow. And how long have you been married for?
About, oh gosh, what is it now? Just over 5 years. We've known each other about 6 years and been married for about
Okay.
5.5 years. Yeah.
Oh wow,
And
mashallah.
it's been amazing.
I have no clue about online dating. Never done that. Don't
You're
know about that.
lucky.
I know somebody approached me many months ago, and they're like, "Oh, would you like to talk?" So we're just having normal conversation. The guy
Mm,
liked my post, so we're talking about that. And then he's like, "Oh, I like. Do you do online dating?" And I was like, "No." And then he goes like, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't believe in online dating." So he was like, "Why you don't make?" Because I said, "Well, because they're scammers, and I can't see the person, and I don't believe in online dating because when you write something, sometimes it's so misunderstood. So most of your time is just like, oh, you're just clarifying it to the other person while in the new knowing stage, and that
mm,
person just blocked me within 5 seconds."
mm.
I was
I
like, "Oh
think,
well, there we
yeah, I
go."
think you
I
need to
was.
be able to use it properly. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. If somebody's blocking you, then it says more about them.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm married, I'm had a kid, well, I'm separated, but I have kids, and I was not looking for that. But I didn't say anything like that. But it was so funny that 5 seconds and there was the block, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so out of this. And one of my friends here, she knows a lot about online dating and scammers and stuff, and she's been
Mm,
working. She's from South Africa, and she's working on it because she said that happens a lot in her part of the world.
mm. Oh,
And
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
so she's bringing a program forward to help stop this thing, and
Mm,
all that stuff. So anyway,
definitely.
what message would you want to give to people who are listening to you, men and women who are single right now and are on dating sites?
I would say, first of all, my first piece of advice is narrow your search, widen your search criteria. You know, what we tend to do is we do all these drop down search criteria, then we're left with a very small pool of people. Go for two things. That's my first piece of advice. Second piece of advice is look with your heart. You know, don't judge people by their education, their income, their job, or anything like that. Look what they've actually got to say for themselves. And, you know, if they're nice people, then, you know, then you can talk to them. And I think thirdly as well, um, sad but true, the online world is risky. You have to be prepared for it to feel like a conveyor belt. One minute you're talking to somebody, it's going well, then he disappears or she disappears. Then you're talking to somebody else. It's a bit like a factory. So if you're realistic going into it, then you know you use it like a networking. Get to know people. You might even meet
Mm.
somebody who knows somebody who is a good match for you. But definitely be very aware of the issues
Be
before
very
you're using.
open.
Yeah, be very open and just be mindful that you know it's quite risky, so just
I
be ready
think
for that.
just being in a relationship can be risky. You could know somebody, and I knew this girl. She got engaged. No, not online, just generally. She got engaged, and the guy went abroad for studies, and then never heard, never saw. Oh,
Yeah, that it
saw the
happens.
that happens. So it's
Yeah,
not.
I think.
I think the only for me, if let's say if I were to say, oh, I want to have a relationship. So for me,
Mhm.
my hesitation going online would be the only thing is that when you're chatting with somebody, sometimes what you write is so misinterpreted because you're saying something and the other is reading it in a
Mhm.
different way. I mean I'm so old now that I cannot deal with giving explanations honestly.
It's like WhatsApp. I mean, how many ladies come to me because they something has happened and there's been a misunderstanding on WhatsApp because
Oh
you
my
can't
gosh.
judge the tone on a message. And I'm just thinking
Right.
of something that a sister, is it Glad Sambatha, has said? Sorry if I
Gladdy,
pronounced
yes,
it wrong.
Gladdy. Yes,
Gladdy, yeah.
Gladdy, yeah.
Gladdy advisors don't fall in love with potential. Absolutely. I think one of the biggest dangers, just generally in the marriage search thing, is what I call future fantasizing. And we're meeting somebody and it seems okay. So we kind of switch into this. We start imagining the future. Where is this going to go? How are our families going to meet? How are we going to get married? Where are we going to live? And what happens is you stop being mindful because you're too busy thinking of what could be. And then when suddenly things don't go your way, it just feels like devastating because you've got this lovely fantasy in your head. But and meanwhile, you've missed what's really going on. So definitely, Gladys, I agree. Just kind of stay quite open minded and as objective as possible throughout the
Mm-hmm.
whole process.
Yes, yes. There's always a risk. Trust your judgment and have support from people. I try to get some advice from someone as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes, definitely. I mean, getting in, when I was getting married, one of the things I heard was marriage is a risk. So
Mm,
you have to know, it's like you have to know how to play it. So whether you're
mhm.
meeting online, whether you're meeting through somebody or whatever it is, even in love marriage, there's always risks. It's just that one thing I now with age, I think is that just go with your gut. Your gut will tell you,
Yeah,
even if you're
definitely.
happy, it will tell you, oh, something is off. And you'll
Mm,
be so just listen to that inner voice. Even if you're happy, that inner voice is, if it's telling you run or leave the person.
absolutely. Honestly, I mean, I've been saved so many times by that inner voice, where
Mm.
afterwards I found out actually that inner voice was right about something. Even though I didn't know what the thing was, I just knew something wasn't right, and I was right afterwards. So definitely listen to her. She's very smart.
Yes, yes. And I think also, I think we're really conditioned through movies and especially these classic love stories like Romeo and Juliet, and then the Hollywood
Hmm.
and the Bollywood kind of thing. That kind of love and romance is just blown love and romance out of proportion. And in we've forgotten the true essence. That's what I had posted also, that we've forgotten the true essence of love and romance. It is so different for each individual couple, and it's
Hmm.
not like that same stereotype, or die or whatever that we've been brought up learning.
Mm.
And I've heard a lot of men saying that, oh, women have such stupid expectations. Women have those stupid expectations because that's what they've seen. That's what
Yeah.
they've seen. This is Prince Charming, and this is how he's supposed to be, or vice versa. And then, and when that fantasy, and then the reality bubble comes, people, where there is potential that the marriage or the
Mm.
relationship, it just falls apart because
I
of such reasons.
And I think as well as films, I think social media has a huge part to play in this. You know,
Yeah.
if you scroll through
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, hashtag, marriage goals, relationship goals, you've got this guy and woman looking stunning. The house is beautiful. They're
Hmm.
so in love. The reality is your house is a mess because you're both working. Most of the
Hmm.
time you just talk about what you're going to have for dinner.
Hmm.
You argue about whose turn is it to take the bin out. And that's fine. That's the beauty of marriage. But I do think
Hmm.
when I speak to a lot of ladies, social media is quite detrimental, I think, because it gives
Hmm.
such bizarre expectations of marriage and
Hmm.
of relationships. And, marriage is very real and it's very raw and there's
Hmm.
nothing is hidden, but kind of you see these fairy tale relationships. And
Hmm.
it can make you feel really down if
It
if you're
does. Hmm.
single and or you've had a bad experience with somebody. You're looking at these women thinking, well, they're so young and beautiful, that's why I must be so old and ugly, or what's wrong
Hmm.
with me, other women have this, therefore I'm so unworthy, I can't have it. And I just think it's like it's so it creates such ridiculous expectations as well for both
It
men and
does.
women. I think for men it gives them sort of this bizarre fantasy of what a woman actually is as well. And I
Hmm.
think when they actually meet women who are not filtered, they're face to face women, they're quite shocked at how real women are. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think social media has a lot to answer for.
And I cannot agree more with you, because I know somebody personally, pretty, I wouldn't say really happily married, but decently happy.
Hmm.
But all of a sudden she's off, and I was like, what's wrong with you? And she's, no, no, no. So she won't talk to me. And then it's like, something's wrong, I know you. And then she starts to open the Facebook, and says, look at this couple, and they're so happy. I look at the husband complimenting, and look at the wife liking. And I was like, gosh, this is so fake.
It's so
I've seen
fake.
I've seen people who take their husband's phone, open their Facebook, and comment from their thing on their picture.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just to give you an example, when a friend of mine, was married for a few years, and everything was they tagged everything. Husband, I love my husband, love my wife, happy forever. And then one day she phoned me. She said, "I'm getting divorced," and I was like, "What?" I said, "But your Facebook post didn't imply that." She goes, "No, we've been having problems for a long time." I was like, "Well, this is the reality of it. It's very." And I often feel the people that work so hard to present a certain view of their marriage online. I just think they're overcompensating a little bit. I'm thinking, there's something you're maybe not happy with. Why do you feel that everyone should know this? Years ago, before the internet, when it was your anniversary, you would give your husband a card, or your husband would give you a card, and you'd wish each other happy anniversary. Now the husband goes online and he posts this huge thing about how much he loves his wife and she's his life and his spirit guide. And I was like, if ever you did, I said, husband, if ever you did that, I don't know, I think my husband would be mortified if I did that. But to have a collage of all the pictures of the wife, and you're like, gosh, you really need to, keep it between you. It's just,
I mean, if
terrible.
you're truly happy, if you're truly happy, you want to do it. But where it becomes more toxic is when you're faking it online. I think that's where the issue is. So don't fake it. If you're not happy, nobody cares. Once when you're in a gathering, once you leave that gathering, you're going to your home, your problems, your shit. Nobody cares. So don't fake it on social media. Nobody cares. People who are genuinely happy don't care. They'll probably say, oh, that's so nice. And so many people are either going to get depressed, or so many people are going to be like, what's going on? So you don't, I mean, for me, it's like, don't fake it on the internet. If it's for real, fine, that's fine. But don't fake it, because like you said, I think 90% of the marriages that are being portrayed on social media are fake, and 10% probably are really potentially happy marriages out there.
Yeah. I just think, it just portrays a very bizarre view of marriage.
Somebody saying true, and sometimes abusers want you to portray a happy social media life to cover up. I've seen that too. Yes,
definitely.
Definitely. On that note, thank you so much for coming forward and sharing your point of view. This was such a wonderful conversation. Having a talk about Muslim women and their struggles, especially with online halal dating, it was really inspirational.
Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. Any last final words you want to say to the audience who's listening?
Any man or woman out there who is struggling to get married, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. This is the time we're living in, the modern age we're living in. Marriage has become so hard. If you are sincere, you're honest, inshallah, the person for you is out there. But, remain as objective as possible. Keep a clear mind and don't rush into anything. Ultimately, everybody wants a wedding, but after you've got married, nobody's there to help you with the stuff after. You need to make sure the stuff afterwards is okay. So even if you've got to wait, it will be worth it, because inshallah, you've got a lifetime with this person. So don't rush it.
Wonderful words. Thank you once again. Thank you guys for tuning in. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Khuda Hafiz.
Bye. Khuda Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.